Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rana Dubrow. I'm one of your CURT staff, and I'm here to facilitate the session on Janssen Sciences Ireland BioCork2 expansion. This project won the CURT 2020 Construction Industry Project Excellence Award in the greater than 50 million but less than $1 billion category. Our presenter is Jim Breen, Vice President, Lead Biologics Expansion for Janssen Pharmaceuticals. Please check out Jim's full bio in our conference app. A couple quick items before we start. Please post questions in the chat box, and I'll advise Jim of those questions at the end of his presentation. We will conclude this session by 3:50 Eastern Time to allow everyone to go back into the plenary session for the remainder of the day. I'll post the link for the plenary in the chat box. And now, Jim Breen.
Hi, everybody. This is Jim Breen from Janssen Pharmaceuticals, which is part of Johnson & Johnson. And excited here just to present what we've accomplished in Cork over the past 4 years. And like Rhonda mentioned, we won the Project Excellence, but we also, just as importantly or more importantly for us, we also won the Safety Excellence Award, because you'll see as that was one of our driving forces as we completed the project. So what I thought is just, again, for some people who may not understand or know about Johnson & Johnson, Janssen is part of Johnson & Johnson. They're the pharmaceutical division of the company. And in Johnson & Johnson, we say we can keep you healthy your whole life company. Okay, so a lot of people know Johnson & Johnson from baby powder, baby shampoos when you were young, but also, as you can see, some of the products that we sell over the breadth of our company in terms of medical device, pharmaceuticals, and consumer products are things that you use throughout your life. So if you don't know about Johnson & Johnson, we have a document which we call our credo, which really allows us for decision-making processes. And it really was something that was created over 75 years ago by one of the original founders, General Johnson. And basically it says at the end of the day, you know, we have 4 priorities. The first priority is take care of the patients first, okay? And you can see here, and we'll talk about this as we do this project, you know, the first responsibility is always to the patients, the doctors and nurses, mothers and fathers. The second one really is to the employees, okay? And it talks about how we treat employees and how we work with them. The third one talks with the local community, okay? And how we work with the community from a sustainability point of view, giving back to the community and working with the community. You'll also see that in our presentation today. And then finally, if we do all that right, the final one is to our shareholders, and we can promise a very good return. So as I go through the project brief with you, you'll see all pieces of focus on the customer, focus on the employees in terms of training, bringing them on board early, focusing on working with the local community, and then also the project has been very successful for us. So again, if you're not familiar with J&J, you know, last year, 2019, it was about an $82 billion company. And you can see about half of that is pharmaceuticals, but also very important for us, we also have a very strong consumer health company and a medical device company. And so what I thought is just to throw up a couple of different product names that you may know. So most people would know on the consumer side, Motrin, Band-Aid, Tylenol, Listerine. Those are products, Stay Free. Those are products that we work and supply in Johnson & Johnson. But also under the medical device, many of you may have a knee from us from Dupuy, okay? Or you may be using Vistakon disposable contact lenses. Or you may have gotten a suture from Ethicon, all very, very big businesses for us. And then in the middle, which is the group that I work for now, it's many different products here, Remicade, Darzalex, Symphony, Stellara, you know, products that, you know, really are changing how we supply to the customers, okay? And what I'll talk mostly about is, in this example, we put a new drug substance, AP Biologics plant in Cork. And then finally, as then I'll transition to the project. Really, these are just talks about some of the other things that Johnson & Johnson does in terms of, one of the most admired companies for 30 years, one of 2 AAA rated companies globally. And then you can see, it's estimated that 1 billion people use our products every day. So that just shows you the breadth of the company. And then finally, last one, our purpose. We blend heart, science, and ingenuity to profoundly change the trajectory of health for humanity. And I think, again, as we go through the project, you'll hear some of those things, some of those passions that we have in terms of doing work at J&J come out. So now I'll talk a little bit about the project, okay? So like I mentioned, this is a project that's located in Cork. It was put on an existing plant that already had biologics operations, and we were looking to put in a new technology for J&J called fed batch. We did not have any large-scale fed batch, and let's say they're above 15,000 liters. We had a lot of smaller fed batch at 1,000 or 2,000 liters. A lot of it was done and will continue to be done externally, but we decided to move some of our fed batch capacity in-house, okay, for newer products due to growth. In this plant here, they did some small scale fed batch, and they also did small scale perfusion at 1,000 liter. And see, this shows some of the final pictures, but I'm gonna walk you through the project now. And this again is a good view. You can see in the back, it's Cork Harbor. Okay, and then, in the background, this is located in a section of Cork called Ringaskiddy. There's many other companies, pharmaceuticals companies in the neighborhood, and then also there's a lot of medical device. And actually, J&J has a sister plant down the road, Dupuy, which is one of our medical device plants. When you look at this, Suite 3 is the new building, but we also touched every part of the lab admin, the warehouse, and the central utilities. And then also, if you look off to the right-hand side of the page, we had to really just move an entire mountain to put this in. So another view of this is the items in dark blue are the ones that we actually installed with this project. So there was a new lab extension, there was a new warehouse extension, also with freezers. Okay, so for these products, the products here, we freeze the final product, and then we send it to a sister site or another partner to fill and finish. So they convert it from drug substance into drug product, or terms you always hear. We had a utility expansion and then a large manufacturing expansion. But I think very early on, we sat down with the team, and we'll talk about this a lot, and we made the goals clear for the team. And if you ask most of the people on the team, and for me, the team includes our partners that did the design, which was CISC, and also John Six & Son, which is the construction management. We all agreed that these were going to be our priorities. So number one, we were going to make sure everybody got home safe every day, okay? And what was really great, is some people even measure it from the time somebody leaves their house and goes to work to the time they're back at home, okay? We measured it once you came on the site, but other people were measuring it that far. We said we're going to be compliant with EHS and quality standards. And the reason why we mentioned that, because every company has little different standards, and so we said, look, these are the rules, and you need to follow them. We don't want to recheck them. We're going to proceed with them. Since this was next to a large part of our existing biologics network, we were not going to shut down any time to current production unless it was an agreed shutdown. So that was a main priority, and we had to work around that, and it took a lot to get there. The fourth one was really, they were building a new plant. They were adding 200 people on a site that probably has 700. But at the end of the day, the plant was part of the existing plant. There was not a new plant manager for that plant. Part of the leverage here was to have an organization that would flawlessly start up, which they've had. And so it would be a fully integrated manufacturing site, okay? It wouldn't be 2 different sites. And many of us who've worked on large projects, sometimes they become 2 different sites, but we purposely onboarded people early so it allowed for a flawless startup. We had to make 72 batches a year, okay, for 4 bioreactors. And we said, look, we're gonna be on time and on budget. So those were our simple 6 clear goals. Everybody who's on the phone has probably been involved. They seem very simple, but we really needed to keep reminding folks that those are the goals. And we these are what drove the team. These were our true north decision points. So first, we wanted to talk about our approach to safety. And every meeting that we had on the project, we started with the safety moment, okay? Sometimes it took us a while to find, different safety topics to talk about, but once we got going, everybody got into the rhythm that this was going to be how we ran the project. And so we would talk about how to protect yourself at home, or how to protect yourself at the plant, or how to take 5 and make sure that nobody got hurt. So we developed this charter as part of the team, and we put everybody's name on it. And we said, look, these are our goals. Every person's going home safe every day, okay? We believe that every injury was preventable. We said we must work together at all times to make this happen. And nothing is too important to work on making sure that safety was the number priority, and that we would follow that, okay? So what we also did after we put it, and we thought this was really good, we came up with a concept, okay, of having people sign the charter, okay? So we probably have over 8,000 signatures of everybody who came to work on the site. And basically they were signing up to this goal, that we were committed as a leadership team to make sure nobody got hurt, okay? And, I think the other thing I would say is, for this project, J&J had people join the projects from China, from the US, from the Netherlands, from Ireland. And so it was really a global project, and everybody brought their best ideas. And we really came up with I thought from a safety point of view, a very good culture. Okay, you can see there all the yellow that everybody wore. When we first started, we had to move about, I think it's 10,000 cubic meters of earth, and that took a couple months. So when you're walking out there, everybody had to work yellow so you could be seen. But as we went along, we said, look, why don't we just continue this? And we actually did not take off all that protection until we were well into commissioning, okay? So we found that having those extra protection on your legs, having the visibility was extremely important, and we think it helped to the safety. One thing that I never heard of, and I learned a lot on this job, we started looking at one point when we got concerned, as we had only, for every 4 people, we had 1 moving machine, okay? And that was a critical point where we just had too many machines on the site, and we were worried about people's safety. So we said, okay, let's leave the yellow garb on, and it did work well. In terms of our safety culture, okay, again, you can see safety makes anything possible. We did many different things, okay? We had good catches, we had safety moments at every meeting, but I think the number one is the engagement with the workforce, okay? So a couple things that are not here. All the companies that worked on the site, we had a directors meeting every month. And then we would take the directors, we said, look, if you're gonna work on this job site, you're gonna walk the job site with us once a month. We're gonna split you up, and you're gonna come up with, show us what we're not doing right. So we engaged every company to help us with their directors to walk around the site. And that was a commitment. Okay, the other one, which is not on here, which we thought was also very good, and this is something that we actually learned from one of the construction managers in the US, is to have a skip level lunch where, the J&J management would meet with craftsmen and have lunch, okay? We supplied the lunch, we had lunch with them. I think once people got comfortable with us asking them questions, we got so many great ideas that it was unbelievable. And more importantly, they saw that we acted on the ideas. So one of the craftsmen told us our permit system did not allow them to move quickly, okay? And they still wanted to be safe, but there was bottlenecks in it. And he was right. And I remember on that thing, the next day, we added 4 more people to some of the permitting system because it was holding up activity. So people wanted to do the right thing. They wanted to be safe. And then they said, look, these are ways to improve the systems. So again, what we did try to do is constantly, from a management point of view, from a subcontractor, construction manager, engineer, is really have the management walk the site, show people that we were concerned about their safety and that we wanted to fulfill our goals to get everybody home each night to their family. And so these are just some simple awards that, again, done every month. But, again, you can see our motto: see something, say something, do something. And I think the feedback that we got from the contractors was, and when I say the contractors, I'm talking to the craftsmen, they said that we did react to things when they brought things up. Okay, we couldn't fix every problem, but when you walked around the site, they knew if they said something to us, we would probably act on it. So what were the results? Okay, you can see the results here. We got, about 3.8 million man hours through August. Okay, that's from the time we started construction until basically the end of commissioning. I do note that on March 14th, 2018, we did have somebody get injured. It was early in the job. It was during the shutdown. And in some retrospects, having that early incident actually allowed us to redouble down. We thought we had a good safety program, and we really did even more. In retrospect, that accident, there's only so much we could have done. That person, we monitored that person. He was back to work within a week, and we kept in contact with him. But you can see from an overall performance, we thought the project did extremely well. And again, from J&J's point of view, it was it was CISC and PM and all the subcontractors that did this. It was not J&J. We just made sure that we gave you the tools to make sure that everybody got home safely every day. So the next part I would like to do is just turn a little bit to project execution, okay? And what we did with project execution, and when I talk about execution, I'm going to talk about from the start of the project to when we have made sellable product, which is end to end, and when we know that the asset really works and can create sellable product for patients. And I go back to our credo. The number one is let's get these medicines to the patients as quickly as possible. I think the other thing, very early on, the first 50 people, we had an off-site meeting and we kind of started framing out the project. And one of the things we asked everybody is, how many people in this room have had a mother or father, sister or brother or friend affected by cancer, okay? And when we did it with a poll everywhere. What was amazing is they said 5% of the people in the room have not had somebody in their family affected by cancer. Okay, and what I told them, I said, I view those people as extremely lucky not to have, somebody that you really know and love affected by cancer, because I've had a brother-in-law, unfortunately, died due to cancer, and some aunts also, okay? So, wouldn't it be great if we made this project and we could prevent somebody else in this room not having a family member be sick or be taken by death by cancer? So that was really the rallying call. Let's start to work together and try to make things go as quickly as possible, safety first, no interruptions, and really driving to our priorities, okay? So we drove the message, and we actually brought in early on, we brought some videos in of, the patients, the impact of various medicines and how we as a team could work better. So we asked the team to come up with more creative, innovative ideas on how to allow us to get quicker to execution complete, how do we drive more cost efficiencies, and how do we always maintain safety. So here's a couple of the pictures, and I think the one that I always liked, I call it the bees. If you look at the bottom left, there are all those people, all that yellow are people coming out of one of the lunch breaks. So that shows you the 1,200 people, at peak we had 1,200 people on site. Okay, and it was tremendous the amount of work they did. So when we started the project, I talked about, the solid foundation, and I think everybody would agree, having a good team usually means, if you have a good team, the probability of having a better outcome is there. So, we had a really good team in the beginning. Those are kind of like the first, 30 people, and those are part of the people that we asked anybody affected by cancer. The other thing we did a little bit of a survey called it's Insights, and it really shows you what is your driver, okay? What really are you focused on, okay? So, there's different ways of measuring it. So blue is like, give me the details. That might be somebody who's really into the details like data. Green is more, how can I help you? Red is the one I like the most. It's somebody that says, be brief and be bold, be bright and be gone. So they just want to know, what do you want to know? And I'll move them. And then the other one, yellow, was involve me. So that's, I'm a yellow person first, and I have, my second is red, okay? A close second, okay? But what this did is, when we first did the survey, is we were all red and blue, and just one person out of the first 40 was green, and I think there was two people in involve me. So one of the things we did to kind of track it is, as we added people onto the team, this is kind of like the final end state, we were able to get a lot more people, to be in terms of communication, and then also in terms of, showing me you care. So we increased the green and the yellow energy. The consultant who helped me with this, she had never seen so much blue and red in her life on a team, and she said to be cautious, okay? And so as we went along, we increased the diversity by getting different people on the team, and it worked out. I think, the other one I would say is, we needed 200 people to run this plant. I mentioned that we did not have this type of capability within J&J, so early on we hired certain key operators, certain key management, and we had a very good partner that we work with that makes the product for us now. They allowed us to copy some of their designs, but more importantly, they allowed us to send some of our operators to work in their plants to train. So our operators, when the plant started up, they had been trained on the same bioreactors, same operating procedures for the same product. And that really helped us facilitate the startup of the plant, because the startup has gone actually flawlessly. So next, I just want a little call out to our two partners here, and I do call them partners, Project Management Group, which was the designer, and they also did the procurement for us, and then John Sisk and Sons, which was the builders, okay? They both had a hand in the commissioning, okay? And both had a huge hand in the automation. And if I had to put one more circle on here, a smaller circle, our plant is fully automated, no paper, okay? So our SAP, MES, and our process control systems are all up and running. We did not use any paper, fully integrated system. So the fourth bubble there really would be Zenith Systems, which really did do a lot of work with us to get this done. But I just wanted to call them out. Again, we had them, they were totally integrated to do design and the building commissionings they did together. And so we wanted to call them out. Without them, we could not have gotten this done. The other thing we did, you remember the credo. So I talked about the patient, then I talk about the employee. You can see a little bit of the employees, how we did training. The next one I talked about is the community. So we started a very active engagement early on with the community, say, look, this is what we're planning to do, okay? And we understand that this is a large investment in the community, and that the roads would be more crowded, okay? If there may be noise issues, okay? But just come up and tell us and we'll fix the problem. So it was a very open environment. We invited them up to the site. We had been on the site maybe about 10 years, and they hadn't been up there in a while. So we brought the community leaders up early on and said, look, this is what we're looking to accomplish. And you can see how, we use these boards are close to like 7 or 8 feet, and we were able to explain the boards, poster sessions, really to talk about what we wanted to do. We specifically, there are traffic issues in Ringaskiddy, and then we also talked about noise. And then we also told them, how many people will we be hiring and the type of jobs, and that, also in terms of, what type of discharges. So totally open when we engage with them early. And so the community was extremely helpful, okay? We kept in constant contact with them. If there was an issue, we would go and address it, okay? And we did have issues. Nothing here, this thing did not go perfect. We had issues. They would note it to us, and then we would go down and talk to them. So they knew if they brought stuff up that they would that we would take care of it. And then and then if obviously there isn't, they had another level to really go and talk to us again. But so what I would say is the local community, Ringaskiddy, and then also the Cork County Council, which does the planning permission, they were very helpful. But it required us active engagement upfront before we actually talk to them, before we actually submit a document, so we actively engage the community. Again, that goes to our credo to work with the community. So again, just keep some different, sorry, the wrong way. So then the next one I wanted to talk a little bit is about engineering, okay? So the other thing that we actually did is, we copied, we used another, our existing manufacturing operations were all done in clean rooms. So this is something that's being used in the industry now, and it's going to what they call closed processing environment. Many different people have different names for this, but basically it says that the process is closed, and then so the space around it does not need to be a clean room, but it needs to be a certain level GMP. Okay, so that actually does help in terms of operations costs. It reduces the number of air changes, humidity control, but also capital costs. So the other thing we were trying to do here is really try to make sure that we could, on an end-to-end point of view, try to make this the most sustainable plant in terms of cost, okay? So this is actually the final finished product of what the space looks like. This is in operation. The other thing is, I'll mention shortly that, all these buildings are LEED certified, so there's a tremendous amount of glass in the manufacturing space, so the operators can see the outside environment. So this is actually a picture when you're just looking into the bioreactor hall area, from a corridor where you can just have street clothes on. So this was one big thing that we pushed in the project. The other one is, and then everybody has different type of names for this, but we also within J&J have a Manufacturing the Future program, okay? And there's about 41, or at that time there was about 41 different applications you could look at. And very early on in the project, very early on, we said which applications we'll use and which ones we won't use. So we actually in the end came down with 6 that we would use. And one of the things we said is we have to have a payback of 2 years, okay? And so, one thing about technology, sometimes it's ready to be implemented, and sometimes you need to wait. So there's some things that we added later on, but we said, look, we want to do technology that makes sense for the business, that has a payback. We don't want to just install technology because it's a new technology. And driving that into the project team early on was very important. But people understood that we need to have a business return to do some of these applications. The plant is in operation now. We probably have more than 6. But in the beginning, we said 6. And then as time went on, like 2 years later, there were other technologies. We said, okay, it's ready to go. And then we said, let's put it in. And we managed that. Automation, like I mentioned, just in terms of using automation in terms of the construction. So, basically like we had, a digital twin for the site. All the contractors were using BIM on the site. All the operators were trained before they actually went into the site. They went into the model to see how it operates. We actually use the operators in the design, in the model, to say, from an operational point of view, is this layout good? The other thing, without going into too much detail, we actually ran some Shark Tank events. You can see that down in the middle. And all I'll tell you is, we had an issue that we couldn't solve, okay? And we had some very highly intelligent, experienced engineers trying to solve a problem. And we gave it to 4 people who had just recently graduated from college, okay? So in their early 20s. All of them came up with solutions that really were unbelievable. And we actually implemented one of them. And, after that, we would use Shark Tank events anytime we had a problem that we couldn't solve. Because in some cases, we're too set in our ways not to think outside the box. And especially with the younger students who have good education, good degrees, and they know how to do things, but they don't have some of the background or the baggage that somebody like I have. They came out with great ideas. So again, one of that things showed that, we used a lot of college students from UC University, Cork College, and then CIT, Cork Institute of Technology. So we leveraged our relationship with those schools. We used a lot of young students coming out, co-ops working on the project. So they got to get experience with working in industry. We were able to see what they could do. So again, giving back to the community. Now, some of them have turned into full-time employees, which is good for us. Okay, and then I guess automation, really, this is just one of our HMI sites. So the operators run, there is no control room in this plant. The operators run it right from the from the HMI. Like I mentioned, it's all connected, SAP, MES, all the way down to the process control. It's one integrated system, no paper in this plant at all. And then one of the things is this plant, the main existing plant and then the new plant actually was recently recognized by the World Economic Forum as one of these lighthouse projects. So there's about 40 lighthouse sites, which is something that the World Economic Forum with McKinsey, and these are sites that are really implementing manufacturing the future processes, throughout their plants. So it was good to see the recognition, and then, BioCork2 was part of that submittal, and so it was a great recognition because there's only like about 40 plants, like I mentioned, in multiple different industries. You can see steel, you can see, different types, Schneider Electric, electrical components. So it's not just the pharmaceutical, but across many manufacturing industries, and it's an independent recognition of the efforts. Construction. Okay, this is another one. If you haven't heard of the considerate contractor scheme, this is something in the UK and Ireland. I didn't know about it, but again, you can see what the drivers are here, working with the community, protecting the environment, being careful about our appearance, focused on safety, value the workforce. Again, some of the concepts that I talked about, safety, valuing the workforce, talking to them at lunch and asking them how to improve. So a lot of that stuff was done. And so what was very rewarding for us is that CISC, who was the construction manager, they wanted to submit for this, and we said, okay, look, we'll support this. And for 2 years running, they got the highest award in this in terms of gold. Okay, so again, what we liked about it is it was driving safety performance, it was driving worker engagement, and it was driving different ways of improving our performance with the people that are already there. So again, this is something, again, I've mentioned this before, this is something that I never had heard about, this considerate contractor scheme. It actually makes a lot of sense, is how do we work within the existing communities and work with the community to make sure there's not an impact that we install these projects. So I wanted to shout out to CISC for winning that award. Another thing that was very interesting, you may say, okay, you're in Ireland, but when we counted up all the different nationalities, we had 43 different nationalities. So in terms of, we had a lot of, English signs, obviously some Polish signs, because that was a big portion of the population, but we had to be very careful. We actually had many Indians that came up to help us on the automation systems and some other areas. So we were very mindful of that and making sure that we respected the diversity of all these different people, but also from a safety point of view, how did we integrate those people into an operating plant and make sure that the communication was flawless. So again, this is something with CISC and PM, especially in the commissioning and construction, that we had to continually reinforce. And again, these are just some pictures you could see, of the different activities. I think, for me, the big thing is the amount of machinery that we had in terms of cranes, JLGs, scissor lifts, at some point was overwhelming. It wasn't that big of a site. It may appear to be, but it's really not that big of a site. And then the other thing is, like I showed you in the beginning, we were attaching onto existing plants all over the place. So we were probably every day having 40 plus different permits to work to connect into an existing operating area. And again, remember, one of our big priorities, number 2, do not interrupt operations. Just a couple metrics. People like that, and there's a lot of engineers here. Just kind of shows you all the different metrics in terms of the scale of the project. And I think anybody who's worked on a pharmaceutical plant is, you've got the initial build, but then actually finishing up the space in terms of clean rooms and the final piping connections and all that, and getting that up is quite critical. And then one other one that this kind of developed as we went along. So, you saw in a lot of the early pictures when people are signing the safety charter, we had everybody in yellow. But what we found as we went along is, we had a lot of people still doing construction, but in order to allow us to progress the schedule, we had to overlap commissioning and operation, okay? And, again, our job wasn't perfect. So we had some near misses at one point from a safety point of view, overlapping commissioning and construction. So the one thing that we did, and I'm going to do this on every other job going forward, anybody who was in construction had a yellow vest, anybody involved in C&Q had a blue vest, and then anybody involved in operations, okay, because it was not just J&J employees, we also had contractors, had a green vest. So when you walked into an area, you knew what type of operation was going on. An example, so as we started to, we were starting up different rooms, fully energizing systems, steam, water, gases, and the room next door may be still in construction. So when you went into a room and you saw everybody in blue, you knew everything was hot. And when you went into a room with yellow, you knew the dangers there were more for construction point of view. And then in green, usually I could go in a room with green, but once we got to green, really nobody was allowed in these rooms without special permits. So that was one way as we could stack the schedule, do it safely, compliantly, but also very easily people knew, what operation was going on. Another example is if there was an area in commissioning and I walked in there and I saw somebody in yellow, I usually would talk to them to say, okay, what are you doing and all that, because typically they wouldn't be in there, or if they were in there, they had to have a special permit to be in there. So that was just another level of safety that we used. And then these are just some pictures of the different equipment and the lab areas, the finished lab areas. Okay, so probably about $80 million of equipment that we had to purchase. We had about 60 different vendors to work with, and for the most part, everything went pretty flawlessly. So a big shout out to our equipment vendors also. Commissioning, qualification, and startup. So if you're not familiar with a pharmaceutical plant, you build it, you start up, commission it, then we'll qualify it, to make sure it will work reliably, and then we'll get into what we call engineering runs or manufacturing startup. Okay, and so these are just some different examples. I think the big thing, if you look on the top left-hand corner, those are the final products. So those are 10-liter bottles of finished product. So that is the output of our plant. You can see if you go to the second photo on the left, you can see them in the process of filling. So from the 15,000 liter bioreactors, we'll get down into 10 liter bottles. Okay, those bottles are frozen, and then when needed, they're shipped to a fill and finish site to make a drug product. Okay, so our final product is called drug substance. That's what's in those bottles. And then when we send it to our sister plant to fill it, it'll be drug product. And then so that's what you may see when you go to a doctor or a hospital to get an injection. That's the drug product is what you would see. Okay, in terms of sustainability goals, again, going to working with our community. Bless you. The project did get 2 awards. We got an award for LEED Silver on our production building, and we also got a LEED Silver for our lab buildings. J&J has a policy that any project over $5 million will be LEED certified, at least LEED certified. We were able to get a little bit above. So again, I just want to thank all the different folks from PM, CISC, and the subcontractors, okay, and our project team, the Janssen project team, to get those awards, especially on a manufacturing building. It required a lot of thought and perseverance to get it there, but we were very, very happy with that. You may notice on the first slide when you see of our site, we actually have a wind turbine on the site that generates enough electricity for the entire site. Before we did the expansion, it can do a portion of the expansion, but not the entire one. The other thing that we were quite proud of, again, is just working with the local community. So we, again, as opposed to J&J doing something, we said, look to CISC and PM, how do we as a team, including the subcontractors, work? And so there was a local community group that was looking for help. It's called Field of Dreams. It's for Down syndrome, Arlen, Cork. And they were looking to develop a new site. And basically what this is a site, a garden where, young adults will raise vegetables. Then they will go to market to sell the vegetables, to make money, to buy new seeds, to come back and to start the process all over again. And so they had bought a field, and they needed some help. They had a couple-year plan to really to put this in place. And in 3 years, we were able to complete their 5-year plan, I basically think. But what it did is, in addition to just work, all those teams you see in those photos, they're not just Janssen employees, they're also CISC employees. They're PM, and PM really was the one who brought this to the forefront of us, this great organization. And then also the subcontractors. We said, look, this is something that's good for the community. Let's work with the community and get it going. And so one of the things, again, if I ever do a large project, I'll try to do something similar as opposed to us all doing something separate. Let's all work together as one and get this done. So, and again, the local community liked that. And then the other one, biodiversity. Again, this one, we had on our site, we had hares, rabbits that were, that we had to really protect as we did this major construction. So we made sure that is. And then also we found out that the site was very good for raising bees. So we actually started, we have a bunch of hives. We make honey now, and we give that to the local community. But it was something, not a lot, but it was good to do. And it was something, that we can work with the local academic universities in the area on working on some of these issues. So again, wanted to call that out. So it wasn't just about constructing. Schedule. Okay, so one of the things, Dr. Paul Janssen, remember this is Janssen Pharmaceuticals, he started Janssen Pharmaceuticals, he would always have us say, and the patients are waiting. And if you remember what I mentioned early on, I said, how many people here have not had somebody affected by cancer? 5%. So that was another reason. How do we go and get this, get these medicines to patients as quickly as possible? So this is actually our schedule. Okay, so the one thing we made it a little bit of an infographic here so you can see different things. So what I will tell you is, for the most part, we were on schedule. Okay. But I also wanted to say there are certain things that we kind of fell behind on. But what we did as we had some float in the schedule when we started. How do we overlap things? So you can see, we were planning to get some of the construction done earlier. We were about 2 months late on that. But what we did is we just overlapped commissioning, construction, and startup, and it was done. We were able to do it. We had thought out plans. So one of the things you'll see that our team was very, very resilient. We had construction quality issues on the project, some pretty good size ones. We had to fix them, but also we didn't move the end date schedule. So we're still on track for regulatory approval in early 2022. Okay, we've actually have run 2 products through the plant now, and then so we're just, the way it works is we have to make our product, then we'll have to make our drug substance has to be shipped to drug product, and then we'll make those, and then we'll take that data and give that to the regulatory authorities for approval. But overall, the schedule is right where we expected it. But again, these interim dates, they moved around quite a bit. So then finally, when it was done over, we had the handover from project to the operations. You can see the mass now. In the middle of COVID, we started the plant up, and people were very, very concerned. But again, I have to say, the overall team, J&J, Zenith, PM, and CISC, we worked together, and we did what was right, and we were able to maintain the schedule while also at all times making sure that our employees were safe, from safety point of view, COVID point of view, and then, making sure we don't interrupt operations. So this was the handover. For us, once the engineering run's done, they give it to the plant. And so the plant has been in control of the plant since last August and making products. All right, I think just 2 more slides. These are just our lessons learned, okay? Simple goals, okay? The goal is not construction complete, not commissioning complete. The goal is regulatory approval. All right, so we drove that. Good owner team, good partnership and support. I mentioned Zenith, CISC, and PM. We had a good partner from our contract manufacturing. So we were able to copy some designs. We were able to train the operators. And then last, most importantly, they were running our products. MVA stands for multivariate analysis. We actually were able to get that data, and that was part of our manufacturing the future. And so we're able to predict failures now as the process is running. And we've seen that, and we're able to make adjustments as opposed to waiting for the process to be finished and then do the testing. We're doing that online real time. And that is a huge benefit because it reduces the amount of waste we have, but more importantly, it increases our utilization of the plants. We don't plan for any lost time anymore. We're going to fix it online. We talked about manufacturing in the future up front. Financially, we did well, and no cash flow constraint, good controls, good work with finance. We did a lot of benchmarking in the beginning. We talked to a lot of owners. We talked to a lot of A&E firms, and CMs, and we got a really good view of what was reasonable to get done and all that. We did really good. Hope we can see that our community and communications, we tried to keep the community and the stakeholders involved so the community was happy. And then I think the other one is we had a lot of setbacks. We had issues with floors, we had issues with piping, we had all kinds of issues, and it was a can-do attitude. And I think every once in a while, management thought, oh, we're going to be off by a couple months. And the team, we said, just give us time, let's keep working on it. And the team worked together. And then the last one, which I thought we had really good sponsorship throughout the project. Our sponsors were engaged, they asked good questions, and they gave us air cover. More importantly, they gave us resources. If we need people or financial funding, we were giving that. All right, so in Janssen we have a saying: creating a future where disease is a thing of the past. And we really do think that this project was able to do that. So this happens to be Kevin Coleman, who is the operations manager for the plant now, and he's holding the CURT Project Excellence Award, and Aidan O'Brien, who is our upstream leader in the plant. He holds the CURT Safety Award. Due to social distancing, we made them keep on their mask, okay? But we do, on behalf of the BioCork2 team and Janssen, I want to thank CURT for this recognition. We're pretty humbled by it, but we do think we had a good project. So that was it. And Rana, if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Jim. And just a reminder to everybody, you can go ahead and post any questions that you have in the chat box. I do have some questions I received by text, but before I get to those, I want to remind everyone that all of the presentations during the CURT conference are available to you in the conference app. If you, for instance, for this particular presentation, if you go to the app and click on the icon for schedule, then go to Monday and click on Janssen Sciences Ireland BioCork2 expansion. Then if you scroll all the way down past Jim's picture, past the presentation rating, which we do hope that you will go ahead and fill out the rating here for Jim and this whole presentation. And you'll see at the very bottom, it says documents, Jim_Breen.pdf, and that is the presentation. The links to all the recordings will be sent out after the conference is over. And Jim, with that being said, let's see, we do have, actually, before I get to the questions that I have that were texted to me, Stephen Cabano has a question. What were the key project management best practices applied?
Okay, all right, thanks, Steve, for the question. Good sponsors, good team, clear objectives up front, and not a lot of changes. With, when I say good team, the owner, the CM, and the construction manager. I think those are the main ones that I would say. The other thing is, and I want to highlight this both to the PM and CISC, we had some pretty good conversations, okay, throughout the project when they thought we were not doing our job, as well as we told them when we thought they weren't doing their job. But I think that open environment, and I would include Zenith there too, because they were key, okay? These projects where you have heavily automated system, all these digital twin manufacturing the future plants, we're using data analytics, machine learning, connecting this whole thing up becomes a big issue. So I would say those are the main ones. And everybody was committed not to get anybody hurt. And everybody knew that was our main driver.
Thank you. So this kind of goes with Steve's question. What was actually the most challenging factor of the project?
Okay, I think COVID was one up front. That was not one of the ones up front. COVID definitely threw us for a ringer. But I think the team was so gelled at that point, they could have thrown anything at us. I think the other thing I mentioned early on is, this project was done to be a sustainable project. So we wanted it to be reliable, and we wanted it to be extremely cost competitive. So we had looked throughout the industry. So just having those discussions early on, and then, I would think the biggest thing is, as the project, this was a 4-year project, as things went on, people wanted to change things, and having those conversations saying, look, you can't change it now, it's too late. It's in some cases, they were fabulous ideas, but, we didn't have that information up front. So I think, maybe another one from a project management point of view, it's very well documented in terms of stakeholders of what was included or not. And that actually took about 6 months to get everybody to what we were going to build, and just continually remind them it would be important.
Okay. Jim, you mentioned all the countries that people came from to devote to the project. Did you have any cultural communication issues? And if so, how did you handle those issues?
Yeah, so I think, I mentioned, we don't have it here, but a lot of the signage on the site was in English and Polish, okay? So that clearly was something, because of the amount of Polish people on the job. We put signage in Polish. We thought that helped. We had a lot of people from Southeast Asia. Okay, so we had to change. We had to actually do extra communication with those folks as they came on site. And I think really the big thing we were concerned, a lot of these people were coming in the middle of commissioning and startup, and we just wanted them to understand the status of the plant. So there was a lot of what I call shadowing of people early on, like a buddy system, to make sure nobody who was new to the site was going to get into a place where they could get hurt. Okay, so a lot of the different nationalities, usually they would come in groups. Okay, so we would focus on particular groups, and then each with we welcome them, and actually a lot of them, we asked for more of them to help with our schedule. We welcomed them, but we also would focus on them as they came on site to make sure they understood what we wanted them to do, and then and what they were going to get involved with to make sure they didn't get hurt.
Okay. So what percentage of the workforce were actually local?
Ooh, I don't know that answer. And this is a pure guess, I would say local in terms of Irish, because if you work in Cork, they don't think anybody's local who's not from Cork. But I'll include all the island of Ireland right now. I would say maybe 80% is a number. And again, you could, just like the U.S., you could have a lot of people who are from another, like you could have Polish people who are living in Cork or Ireland who may not speak the language. Just like if you were in New York, not everybody speaks the language. But I would say about 80% don't speak the English language. But I would say about 80% of the people were from Irish. The other ones were, specialty contractors coming on, or, special automation people we may have gotten from Southeast Asia.
And my apologies there, because I laughed because I thought you meant that if you're in New York, not everybody speaks New Yorkese. So,
yes, okay, correct. We have our own dialect, you're right.
Yes, definitely, but a wonderful dialect.
Yes.
Moving on. So any other thoughts that you have? And if there's anyone who wants to provide any other questions in our chat box, feel free to do so. But any other thoughts that you have, Jim, that you really want to emphasize to everyone here?
Yeah, so again, I would, for this, if I had to do it over, I would do things differently, but I would, one is get a good team. One is pick 2 new partners. I'm not saying the 2 that we have aren't good. I would pick 2 partners that can help us, accomplish our goals. I would get everybody aligned on the goals, okay? and work with the community. I think I think what we tried to accomplish here was very, very good. And again, we're starting it up. But I think a lot of this is to Steve Cabano's question. A lot of it is project management 101. If you do it, you can see the outcomes. And in this case, we really focus on this early on. We didn't have a lot of people start the job that didn't finish, and that's one thing that that you don't see a lot. So because when people change, people want to change the goals of the project, and that's where we get in trouble. Okay, but I think those are what I would say, Rana.
Thank you so much, Jim. We really appreciate your time. We appreciate the project that you skillfully led. And for everyone, I want you to know I just put in the chat box the link to bring you back to the plenary session. So please feel free to copy and paste and get yourselves back into the plenary. You have a couple minutes if you want to grab a snack from your experience box. And we'll see you in plenary shortly. Thank you. Thanks again, Jim.
Thanks. Take care. Be safe, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye-bye.